Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Duel Jaeger deck profile for April 2022. I've decided to continue doing deck profiles for Buddyfight on the channel, and my main reason for doing so is looking back on a lot of different decks for references. There haven't really been much updates to a good number of different Buddyfight decks in not just, since the series ended, but years up to when the series was going to end for a lot of different decks, Duel Jaeger being a big one of that for sure. So just for people looking for references on, if they wanted to continue playing Buddyfight and they just needed some guidelines on how to build specific decks, I would update in particular decks that just were kind of overlooked compared to a lot of other ones. And we'll start this series by updating the Ancient World deck used by Gaito for the series, with this one being the Duel Jaeger. I might have said Gaito, but is Kaito with a K, very similar name between the two of them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our flag being Ancient World, we're sticking with the Ancient World, and our buddy being Stout Wrist Unmatched Chief Duel Jaeger Revolted Revival Buddy. It's the buddy of choice. It's just the true powerhouse Jaeger we have compared to all the different ones. Not saying we're not running other Duel Jaegers in the deck. You definitely need to do so to at least build up this card's soul with all the different Dragon Chief Emperors that you can use by putting all the cards from your drop zone into this card to build up a big center with that. And it being our main go-to card, we are running 4 Stout Wrist Unmatched Chief Duel Jaeger Revolted Revival Buddy. Its call cost is to nullify the link of up to 1 Dragon Chief Emperor on your field, then put this card on top of an originally sized 3 Dragon Chief Emperor and pay 2 gauge. And if this card on your center, this card on the field cannot be rested, its ability cannot be nullified, its soul cannot be dropped and by card effects, and your opponent cannot take damage by your opponent's card effects. So it's pretty much your set to go unit on the center or monster. And during each player's attack phase, you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, for this turn, this card gets plus 20,000 power and plus 20,000 defense. So you can use this on your own turn. It's not a once per turn, so as long as you have the gauge to pay, you can build up Duel Jaeger Revolted Revival Buddy's attack pretty powerfully. And it also has Penetrate, Quadruple Attack, Soul Guard, and Lifelink Lose, meaning it'll be your go-to powerhouse to swing into your opponent, being able to hit for 16 damage alone with just this card. For some of the other Duel Jaegers that I run in the deck, I also run the 4 Seeker of Superior Strength Duel Jaeger. You put up to 2 cards from your drop zone into its soul and pay 3 gauge. For a counter, you choose a size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor monster other than Seeker of Superior Strength Duel Jaeger from your drop zone, and you may discard a card from your hand. You do call the chosen card on top of this card without paying its call cost. So just another quicker way to get Duel Jaeger Revival Buddy. Just be careful with the amount of soul you may have in that card, because Revival Buddy does have Lifelink Lose. So if you don't really have that much soul built up in this card, it will definitely be the reason you lose the game, but still a great way to set up those different Duel Jaegers from your drop zone onto the field. For some of the lower numbers for the other Duel Jaegers, I also run 2 Searing Overturn Chief Duel Jaeger Dynamite Neo. With this card, if your card's activated or attacked 3 times or more during this turn, call this card from your hand by paying its call cost. Its overturn is during your attack phase. Pay 1 life for this turn. This card gets critical +1, and its attacks cannot be nullified, and its damage counter cannot be reduced if it is attacking alone. It has triple attack, soul guard, and lifelink 2, and you put it on top of a Dragon Chief Emperor or a Thunder Emperor monster in your field by paying 3 gauge for its call cost. Just another way to get out the multiple attacks with this card using your other Jaeger cards before you set up Duel Jaeger Revolted Revival Buddy on the field. And also 2 Duel Jaeger Tempest for putting this card on top of a size 3 Dragon Chief on your field and paying 3 gauge when it enters the field. Put up to 6 cards from your drop zone into this card's soul, and if this card's on your center, you will not take damage by your opponent's card effects. Once again, just an easy way for you to set up the soul before you nullify the lifelink and call out Duel Jaeger Revival Buddy on top of this card. For the additional support for the different Dragon Chief Emperors we run in the deck, I'm also running 4 Chief of Healing Rin. If you have a size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor on your field, you may discard this card from your hand. If you do, put the top card of your deck into your gauge and gain 1 life. Then you may put the top card of your deck into the soul of a monster in your field. So that gives you more soul buildup. It's definitely a 4 of in the deck, just being a staple to easily make use of that soul buildup for Duel Jaeger, but also being able to give you gauge buildup to build up the power of Duel Jaeger Revolted. For some of the lower numbers for the other monsters we run, I also run 2 Great Pirate Captain Kaido. With this one, if you have an originally sized 2 or greater adventurer or dragon chief on your field, this card's size is reduced by 3, meaning you can have Kaido on the field with your Duel Jaeger, and you can pay 1 gauge. If you do, return a soul from a card on the field to its owner's hand, and you may use this ability once per turn. So another way to get rid of other pesky cards your opponent may have on the field that have a pretty high soul buildup by using this card. And it also has Soul Guard and a critical of 2. And for some of the other lower number monsters, I also run 2 Underling Bad Guy Moto. Counter, if you have a size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor on your field in battle, you may discard this card from your hand and pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card, and for that battle, one of your monsters gets power plus 5,000 and plus defense 5,000. Just another way to build up the defense of Duel Jaeger. You may just be a little short for the gauge cost, so this can add an additional plus 5,000 that can definitely make or break an attack your opponent may be trying to swing in to your Duel Jaeger with. And for the last of the monsters, just 1 Underling No Curve Say. If you have a size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor on your field, you may pay 1 life. If you do, put this card from your hand to the soul of a size 3 monster on your field. And this card's in the soul of a Dragon Chief Emperor monster. That card cannot be destroyed by card effects of your opponent's monsters. Just getting this card set up just adds that reassurance for 1 additional soul in that card. And the only item we run in the deck is the 1 Pulse Headgear. You pay 1 gauge and 1 life. This card can attack you if you have nothing on your center. And with that monster on your center, you put the top 2 cards of your deck into your drop zone. If a Dragon Chief Emperor is among them, put 2 cards from your deck into your gauge, and then you may always use this ability once per turn. But it's mostly here for the gauge buildup. You really don't need that additional critical against your opponent, but you do need that gauge buildup for Duel Jaeger Revolted. That's it for the items and the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 4 of the Dragon Within the Ocean. You pay 1 gauge and 1 life. Search your deck for up to 1 size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. You can only cast Dragon Within the Ocean once per turn, but this is your search for any of the Duel Jaegers you may need, whether you need Tempest to build up the soul before you call out Revolted Revival Buddy, or you just need to search out this card to begin with. It's a definite 4 of because it's just an easy search for the use of a gauge and a life. And I also run 3 Reflection Dragon Moon. You pay 1 life, put the top card of your deck into your gauge, put up to 1 size 3 Dragon Chief Emperor from your drop zone into your hand. Once again, recycle power. We have the search power from the deck with Dragon Within the Ocean, but we do need that setup with some of the cards we may mill from our deck to add back to our hand using this card. I only run 3 though. I wanted to save some of the other number ratios for the other cards we used for Ancient World, Gauge, and Draw buildup. With some of those cards being Sturdy Dragon Strike. This card also helps to set cards up in the drop zone to then put into Duel Jaeger's soul, and also giving you a gauge in exchange. And also running 3 A Dragon's Will. You may only pay this card if a size 3 monster is on your field is being attacked. You nullify the attack and put the top card of your deck into your gauge. The gauge buildup, once again, is an important part of why we're playing this card in the deck. It does help to nullify, but you will be able to block a good number of attacks anyway on the field. This is just so you can have that additional gauge cost to then also build up Duel Jaeger Revolted Revival Buddies additional defense. And also we're running 3 Link Dragon Orders links for more gauge buildup or potential destruction by also dropping cards from the top of our deck. And also 3 Dragon Emperor Legend. You draw a card, gain a gauge, and gain 1 life. So all the benefits for thinning through the deck while also giving you resources. And for more gauge buildup, we're also running 3 Rise and Fall of the Dragon. You pay 2 life to put the top 4 cards of your deck into your gauge. You may only cast it once per turn, but that's why we're running 3, so we can at least see it often enough, but hopefully not open up too many doubles early on. Same premise, going with Divine Dragon Creation. For paying 2 life, you draw 2 cards. You really need all that gauge and draw setup to get the hand you need with any Ancient World deck. And for some of the 2-ofs, I run 2 Soaring Dragon Fair Skyline. You pay 2 gauge to draw 3 cards, then drop 2 cards from your hand. You may just need that 1 potential Duel Jaeger that will be needed, and most of the time it is the Revival Buddy or Tempest or one of the other ones to call it out. Even if you have to discard another Jaeger, if you have the one from your hand that you drew that can set up the one in the drop zone, that could be the play you need right then and there. It does cost a pretty heavy gauge cost, but still worth it in the long run so you can get your play together. And then lastly, for these spells, just 2 Resolute Dragon March. You drop a monster from your hand to put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge and draw a card. It works mostly with the Wild Dragons, but is in this deck mostly for that additional gauge setup, but also being able to draw a card while also setting up more monsters in your drop zone that you could potentially call out. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Once again, big thanks to my buddy Anthony for letting me use his Duel Jaeger deck for the start of this new video series. Like I said, I definitely do want to keep the game Buddyfight alive, so by doing so, I'll just be giving support to a bunch of different decks that I feel haven't seen much update with deck profiles on YouTube up till now. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.